I bought this chair online, and it comes as a kit with about 5 or 6 pieces, and you screw it all together. And quickly found out that the chair height is too far off the ground for my legs. It wasn't comfortable. When I looked into returning the chair, I realized that I was going to have to pay return shipping, and return shipping was about 70% of the purchase price. So even if I did send it back, I wasn't going to get much money back out of it. The next option would be to resize the chairs so it fits me better. And after doing a few measurements, I found that if I cut 2 inches off of the legs where they attach to the rocker, then the chair should fit me nicely and I will be able to keep it. So after a few YouTube videos and Google searches, I've found out how to make dowels and reattach the rockers. And so in the subsequent sections here, you'll see how that process worked out and how this chair ended up becoming a comfortable porch rocker. So the rocking chair comes as a kit, and this rocker is going to be attached eventually. And as I mentioned earlier, the chair is too tall for me, so I need to cut off 2 inches from the legs. Notice that the rocker is connected to the chair using these dowels. They're 3/4 of an inch in diameter. So what I'm going to have to do is cut the legs here and then drill a hole up into the leg to then put in a new dowel, and then put a locking pin into the side of the dowel, which is 3/8 of an inch. And once all that's secured and glued down, then I can put the rocker back on, with the chair being 2 inches closer to the ground, and that way it's going to fit me. So this view gives some detail of how the 2 inches were measured, and not only measured, but the rocker has a bit of an arc to it. So this way you clamp the rocker measured 2 inches up the leg on both sides, and then strike a pencil mark across here to get the correct arc. And once that line is set, you can then indicate the middle of where the dowel goes, and eventually, once we have that cut off, we'll put a jig on the end of this cut off leg and drill a new dowel hole up into the leg. So this is the dowel that's going to end up going into the leg once we've drilled a good hole to put it in. And in order to drill the hole, I've put a dowel jig on here and lined up the hole we're going to use with the point that we measured earlier with the rockers. In order to drill the hole, we've put a collar on the drill bit to keep from going too deeply into the leg. And in order to measure how deep we're going to go, put the drill bit into the jig and then set your collar using this gap right here. Now, the gap that we're seeing here is the depth at which the drill bit will go into the leg where the dowel will eventually be placed. The dowel that we're inserting is 3/4 of an inch in diameter, same as what came with it. The biggest hole I can get with the jig is 1/2 an inch. So in order to finish off the job and get our 3/4 of an inch hole, I have a 3/4 inch drill bit that I'm going to have to freehand, and in order to measure the maximum depth, I'm going to put a piece of tape on the drill bit just to keep me from going too far. So with that hole drilled, then we can insert the dowel. And just to verify that we have the correct distance, put our gauge back on here and hit right at 3/4 of an inch. Both holes are drilled. We've got dowel in on this side. We've got the second dowel in here. Just give a little tap to make sure it's seated. And now we'll check and make sure that the rocker goes on. Yes, the holes match up. Everything's good. So that means it's time to glue those two dowels in and get ready for the next step. So the hole for the pin dowel has been drilled using a jig, just like we did for the primary dowels. And we can remove the jig and reveal the pinhole or the pin dowel hole. And I've got a 3/8 inch piece of dowel here that we can fit in that opening, and it'll slide in there and pin that the primary dowel in place. That's a little bit long, so I can come back and shave that off flush once I get it all glued in there. So now we have the primary dowel and the pin dowel on both sides, and once that's glued and dried, then we can put a hole down through the center of the primary dowel for the assembly screw to put the rockers on, and this side of the chair is done. One thing that really helps with the assembly of these chairs is using a drill bit made out of a hex key. The kit comes with this little Allen wrench or hex wrench, and there's just not enough torque on it to do all the twisting you need to do in order to put these chairs together. So I cut off the angled part of that hex wrench and made it into a drill bit, and then I set my drill to about 18 to 20 foot-pounds of torque so it doesn't strip out the wooden threads. Well, now that the legs have been shortened by 2 inches, the chair now is 2 inches closer to the ground, and it's all been put back together. The kit comes in about 7 or 8 easy pieces. It's all back together, and it's now a good chair and comfortable to sit in.